So thank you everybody for joining us for another Ujima Wednesdays. This month, we're engaging in reflection and discussion with our second member peer learning session. This time we'll have representatives from the Anchor Institution Outreach Team who will give us insights into our 2021 wins, challenges, and lessons. And we'll have conversation or space for questions and conversation around cooperative work and processes after. So I'm gonna welcome to the stage Steve, Dub, Siona, and Tally.
Okay, and should I use my screen or how do you want to do this? There is a PowerPoint.
We actually have a little PowerPoint.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and okay. And oh, it's making me, let's see if it, I'm gonna ask somebody else to do this because it's giving me like some, yeah, okay. It's asking me to set it up in system preferences, and that's not a good use of group time.
I think this is it.
It looks like it is, but we should start at the start.
Yep. Ta-da.
All right. Ta-da. All right, so we'll split this up. I think we're supposed to take about 10 minutes, at least that's what I recall, and then leave plenty of time for discussion. Sierra, does that sound about right to you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and actually it's up to Paige and Sierra.
All right, let's go to the second slide and I'll get started. So this is, this has been our sort of historic mission in a way. And we've been, which has been, we've really been focused especially on getting those investments and these are numbers as of the beginning of 2021 that we had already helped secure 50,000 in contracts, 150,000 investments. And I want to say that I think this is a hardworking team and we've done a lot of this work. But also, this has obviously been the whole network and movement. So I don't want to just, say this was the work of the Anchor team. We'll talk about this a little bit down the road, but because the investment fund has actually been raised, we've been in a process of transition in this year and really excited going into 2022. I'll pass it to the next slide and to, I think Tali was going to go next if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think Sierra put it in the chat, but we forgot to put in what is the Anchor Institution team, so I'm just gonna say what you put, which is really good. But yeah, we work to engage Anchor institutions, so place-based institutions, such as hospitals, universities, corporations, or communities of faith to support the Ujima mission and work. Hopefully that is some help.
Yeah, and I'll add a little bit just because I should have done that, but I think it's important, why are we working with anchors? These are institutions that are either nonprofits like churches and universities and hospitals, or publicly owned sometimes. And so they're really responsible to the community. And part of what Ujima is trying to do is build a community-based economy. We don't have to explain how many universities and hospitals are very far removed from the community. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the pressure tactics that are involved with that. But that's really the idea, is to build this economy. And so that's our lane to try to help promote that.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to share a little bit of some of the things we see as successes from 2021. These first few are a little bit more internal facing. So we had a Kickoff team retreat last January, which was really energizing. We got a lot of new people involved from across different kinds of institutions. It felt very vision-y and dreamy. So that was how we kind of started our year. And from that, really worked to creating more systems and structures to be engaging people more deeply in the Anchor Institution work. We had 2 faith network gatherings, one in March, one in June, which is a regular, sometimes quarterly, a little less frequently in the past year or so, gathering of faith network members and congregations who are interested in connecting their congregation to our work to talk with each other, do some political education learning, get updates from Ujima, highlights from the work. We developed an internal leadership structure with 4 roles. So we have like a facilitator, a scribe, someone working on in-reach and outreach, and onboarding new people that we rotate quarterly. So that kind of gives a structure to all of those tasks and make sure that we're able to prepare and do our work well as a team. And then, as I think a lot of you know, because many of you said you were liaisons, which is very exciting, we created this new liaison role, and I love Siona's embodiment of the excitement we feel about it. We created this new liaison role to really help provide a deeper path for leaders of congregations, leaders of hospitals, universities, to be part of some of our core planning, to get a little bit more of the insider role into the team that we're doing, the team and the work that we're doing. And so tonight is our second official kind of meeting that's focused on inviting liaisons into that work. And we're hoping to be doing them every 3 months. So our first one was in October, I think. So that's one of our new pieces of work. I think, Siona, this one's you.
Okay, awesome. As you can see, we have bulleted some other highlights for this year, including efforts related to Sero, the composting, commercial composting company, or cooperative, I should say, including inviting Laura, one of the worker owners, to come and speak with our faith-based meeting, and then also just continuing to kind of elevate the voting. That's not on here, but it's the core Ujima activities or initiatives with regards to votes for the Sero investment that we made toward the beginning of the year and end of last 2 years ago. More political education that seemed to be really well attended, led, I think, primarily on our team, led by Tali. Woohoo! Also, we were invited to have an extra person, an intern, our chair, to kind of work with us on some of our initiatives. So we had a chance to, and primarily Steve, in coordination with Steve, work out some of the details of some of the work that he would both be interested in and also benefit our team and Ujima in moving our strategy forward.
Yeah, thanks. And I think I'll do this part. And I'll just say our chair is doesn't say on the slide, but he's a PhD student in public health, and actually was directed health leads in California. So we're really privileged to have him working with us for these next 2 months. And he's going to be looking at universities and hospitals and so forth. So on to pilot. So pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. It's a lovely acronym. And back in 2010, the city of Boston and the universities and hospitals and other institutions agreed that if for nonprofits that had more than $15 million worth of property, that they would pay 1/8 of what they would have paid as for-profits to the city, and then provide another 1/8 of that money toward community benefit. There's been a shortfall in that actual amount of money. There's also been very little oversight as to what community benefit means. And so the Pilot Action Group was founded in 2018. Ujima was one of the founding organizations, along with a whole host of organizations in Boston. And one of the wins this year was that the property was revalued. So the property, that 1/8 ratio was based on 2009 property values. As you may be aware, property in Boston's gone up in price since 2009. So now there'll be a new evaluation. We're expecting those results to go public shortly. We held a town hall at which Nia was one of the speakers. We also had a speaker from BECMA, which is the Black Economic, I don't know, cooperative of Massachusetts, something like that. Held a briefing for the new city councilors that almost everyone attended in December. And we have an upcoming event in 2022, next month, that's statewide and looking at state legislation. Black Economic Council, thank you. I knew I got that wrong. And so I'm really encouraging folks. Let's see, we just put out a flyer on this today, so I can make sure that the team at Ujima has that information, but I encourage you to attend on February 15th. Devarian Baldwin's the professor at Trinity College, author of In the Shadow of the Ivory Tower, and a super dynamic speaker. I had the privilege of seeing him in person in Somerville this fall and really encourage folks to show up. And that's for me. So next slide.
Great. So the slide's a little bit more about the challenges we were experiencing, some of the lessons from this year. So very exciting now that Ujima has reached its 5 million investment goal, which was one of the key ways we had been engaging some anchor institutions. We're now kind of trying to redefine some of our team goals. So that's something we're actively working on, but has been a little harder to engage in a concrete way because that we're kind of in process of refiguring out some of that work. We've been trying or wanting to do more with hospitals and universities. We have, as you can probably tell from this call, a lot of connections with congregations and haven't quite yet broken into those two institution fields. And our understanding is that's specifically of interest also of Ujima staff. So really thinking about how we can do that more. Similarly, reflecting on how we can be more representative of BIPOC communities and the communities that Ujima is really centered in, voting members, folks in Boston, and also at the same time clarifying opportunities for solidarity groups to support the anchor work. So kind of being clear on what opportunities there are that, you know, really are supporting the organization from a solidarity standpoint. And yeah, and generally growing our team and our membership and thinking about representation and the diversity within the team and centering folks that Ujima primarily works with. So those are some of the challenges and things we're thinking about in moving forward with our work. And I think Siona, if you're still there, this one is you.
Okay. Oops. Yes. Oh, my kettle. So what are some of the current needs or interests that we might have for the broader Ujima membership or network? Join us in the work. I would add maybe, you know, consider making a commitment for a period of time, such as, such as a year or so that you're, you know, able and willing, of course. We meet every third Wednesdays. This is the cadence that the overall Ujima scheduling provides. Third Wednesdays of every month. After this kind of more public or broader portion from 6 to 7:15. After that is when we generally meet. So book it on your calendar, plan to join us. If you have someone that you know or you yourself are connected at another faith institution or congregation, or especially maybe a hospital or university, even if they may not have direct maybe purchasing power or influence in a way that seems very direct, we would invite you to kind of you know, open kind of try to connect us, connect them with Ujima somehow. through us, through our member team is great. And then if there are other ways, so we want to have a sense of sustainability in some of our initiatives, and part of building the specific faith network group was our kind of first big attempt at that. So working with other people who are working within their institutions, aligning goals or outcomes, or even just efforts to kind of inch forward the work of a solidarity economy. We could use your interest in initiatives and ideas and your work so we can work together. That's it, I think. I guess
that's it. And I guess I'll just say
time.
too,
Yeah.
you know, like, I think we were, you know, if there's ways the Anchor team can support the other teams in Ujima, we also are interested in that. So, but hopefully this is enough to start the conversation. We can probably take off the slides, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I got a chat from Sierra that she stepped away for a minute. But I think, yeah, the next piece I think was just Q&A. So we could probably start on that. Anyone has questions?
Yes. If anybody has questions, I'm back about, collective work, how, the team organizes, any of their wins, challenges, or lessons. This is the time.
Yeah, go ahead, Barbara.
I have one just very practical question because I'm coming late to this. You mentioned a number of faith institutions had, done procurement, as part of, under the Ujima network or whatever. Where is there a list of, what institutions, what businesses, what et cetera are possibilities? If I were to go back to First Church and say, could we buy our X from, where can I find what's possible beyond the composting, which at the moment we're virtual, we have no coffee, or I'm not sure we have anything to compost, but that will come again. But
Sienna, it looks like you want to say something.
Can I ask Steve if you have a response? Otherwise, if you could.
Well, I mean, there are different phases. So there was like a large sort of businesses we love, and then there are a few businesses like Cerro, potentially Dorchester Food Co-op. There's a vote right now. So there's starting to be businesses that have passed the Ujima standard, and that list is growing. So that's what I can say. I don't know if there's a specific website right now. So Sienna, if you know more about that, that'd be great.
Well, I think in the past when this has come up, and anyone please feel free to either correct me, or there was maybe an idea that if there aren't services or products or that you can directly say, oh yes, this will directly benefit the Ujima specific initiatives, we do have a set of business standards. So we meaning Ujima, and those standards are the things that we love, that we support. Oh, there we go, and it's in the chat. It's on the Ujima's main page.
right.
If there are ideas about how to kind of promote those standards amongst, I mean, this is just off of the top of my head. It's to promote those standards among the businesses you love, in the communities, hopefully in Boston, but it could be adjacent as well. I think if we had a choice of where your efforts might go, it would be aligning, almost closer to the Ujima strategy. But that's one way to kind of promote a solidarity economy and support Ujima. Also, there's a lot of things that could use a group of maybe committed or invested folks to kind of get behind actions such as a pilot campaign. So if there's something like an event-driven sort of effort, maybe that's how congregations can also support. And then lastly, I think we do have a very long list of specifically in Roxbury that Ujima membership had a vote on. I forget exactly when. And those were the potential businesses that existed at the time by which we were going to invite those businesses to, apply as a Ujima small business. And so perhaps those are also the businesses you can consider either patronizing or maybe talking up. I learned from you.
How would I find that list? How would I know, beyond my own instincts? I mean, we just bought 20 books from the Frugal Bookstore, but beyond.
Keep buying there.
Yeah.
Sheila, just put in one link that might be helpful. I don't know if that's what you're going to say, Siona, but just pointing that out.
Economy builders.
Yeah.
So it's on our Ujima website. And then also there are, I believe it's in a sister site, but it was the roster of voting that we had at our disposal. But it's I believe there is a link. I just can't remember what it's called. What's the voting common space called? I'll try to find that information and post it in the chat.
I will too, and I think that what you're talking about is we have a specific site on our Necessary Systems microsite that details all of the past votes, anything that people need to learn about, the work that we've been doing over the past 5 years.
I think that's what I'm referring to. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Also the investment plan. So I'm gonna pull that up and put it in the chat really quickly.
So while they are not official as part of Ujima, this is kind of the building work that that the collective we Ujima and solidarity businesses, members, efforts are doing is to push forward in the small business space. And that list might, be helpful. Yeah, so hopefully these aren't too vague.
Yeah.
I can see it's building.
It's building. The other thing to keep in mind, and I think just important to recognize, is that, each faith-based institution on its own may be small, but collectively you have significant economic power. And so, if there are areas, this of common need or concern, and you can say we are socially, we want to be procuring these services from a socially conscious business that's part of the Ujima network. Well, that's something that Ujima network can use to help create that business potentially. And it sounds theoretical and airy theory and all that, but look at what Cerro has done. It's been over 7 or 8 years. It didn't happen overnight, but they're now getting major contracts from Northeastern University and Boston University, and as well as a lot of, doing composting all throughout Greater Boston. And there was a need that was identified, and that was a yin and yang. And part of what Laura talked about in March was about that. Like, she was quite clear that they never would have gotten those contracts at Northeastern, but for the movement.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure that we have much more time for questions.
I think we do. Well, I don't know. Sierra, is there other things you need to do before 7:15?
If we feel that we have exhausted all the questions people have for the team, I'm just gonna, do a going once, going twice situation. Take a few moments. Okay. So if that's the case, I'm going to say goodbye to YouTube. Thank you all for joining us.